hundreds of Americans still there. Every element of his philosophy and policy has been a failure.
Sir, you talked about how what's going on raises questions about Speaker Pelosi. What does it say about President Biden's agenda?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question.
You've been saying that whatever is going on at the moment reflects on Speaker Pelosi and her,
reflects on all
her
the
legacy.
Democrats.
What does it say about President Biden's agenda here with this bill that...
It's a failed policy. Let's walk through. I appreciate the question. So let's walk through. What does it say about President Biden's policies? Okay. Well, let's first look at his foreign policy in Afghanistan. He lied to the Americans who were there that they could come down. He wouldn't return the phone calls to our foreign allies who had their own troops and citizens there because America had been attacked 20 years prior. He would tell us to come to the airport, the Americans who were there, and his own administration 30 minutes later said, no, it's not safe. The Bagram air base that he closed down had a prison on there where ISIS-K was. The suicide bomber that killed those 13 American servicemen and women came from that prison, from being opened up. He told us that there was only a few Americans left. Now we find out, no, there's hundreds of Americans still there. That's failed. He told us that he was going to secure the border. We now that it's not more than 1.4 million people in countermeasures illegal coming across. He told us when the public finally was able to see the hundreds of people sitting underneath a highway that he was going to send them back. We found that he lied to the American in the dead of night, would ship people around the country. Not one of them being tested for COVID in a time that he's asking the rest of Americans. He says in his policies as well that if you're here and you're illegally, that you cannot, law enforcement cannot come and arrest you in certain places inside America. But Americans can still be arrested in those places. He told us that Americans cannot have a pipeline that would produce 1 million jobs and environmentally sound to be able to move our gas and our oil in a more environmentally friendly way down to be produced in Texas. He lied to and broke a treaty with Canada, and it also hurt Mexico within our region, but it hurt American jobs. But he allowed Putin to produce a new pipeline inside Europe, which Putin is now using it for the exact same reason, to have influence inside Europe and building troops along the Ukraine border. He now asks, as gasoline prices rise to a level they haven't in 7 years, that he writes a letter to OPEC to produce more, but tells the producers in America they can't because he shuts them off of federal land. When parents come before the school board meetings, because with COVID, they can now see on Zoom what's being taught in their schools, and they want to know what's being taught to their children, he asked the Attorney General to go and investigate the parents. Every element of his philosophy and policy has been a failure. And it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the millions of people who just voted last Tuesday to send him a very clear message. But Nancy Pelosi and President Biden are tied together, because 2 times he's come down to these chambers and asked people to vote for those failed policies. He has his members who work for him in the administration down here trying to influence. He has his administration, his cabinet members calling, trying to influence Democrats to vote for it, even though they don't have a score on what it costs or what it would do to this country. So yes, I have a long opinion, but it's not just my opinion. And it's not just in America, it's around the world. So we're trying to change the course. We're trying to build back that America could actually have jobs in America and not put a tax code that punishes people. You know, if they are successful in this, just their global minimum tax will make it more competitive to move your business overseas. When we were able to change the tax code last time, you had no inversions. You had people moving their businesses from overseas here. I remember I was in a school one day and I was talking about the competitiveness of America and how it's been more competitive by other countries when we were trying to do our tax code. And this one student raised his hand and he said, "How did America fall behind?" And I asked him if he played any sports, and he said he was a swimmer. I said, well, let me give you an analogy based upon swimming. Picture America after World War II, and we're at a swim meet competing with every other country. We jump in the pool. Not only do we win, we dry off before second and third arrives. Well, when the next year comes, we think a lot of countries got damaged more than we did during World War II. So we should probably raise the taxes on America or provide greater foreign aid, put a weight belt on about 5 pounds. And every year we add another weight belt. So pretty soon, we got a 50-pound weight belt on. And you know what? We no longer win. And the rest of the world looks around and says, why don't you swim like you used to? What we really have to do is remove the weight belt. With the reconciliation is bigger than a 50-pound weight belt. Not only will it make us not win, it'll make us sink. It will enhance other countries' ability to be more competitive than America. So I have strong opinions about his policy.